Hello, everyone. I am back, and I'm going to return to the Arendt and Heidegger letters. So I actually just finished watching, it took me like a few days to watch the 2012 movie on, I think it was like written and directed by Margarethe von Trotta. And it is about the 1961 trial of Eichmann in Israel, where Hannah Arendt, she travels to Israel for the New Yorker to write a piece for them. And of course, she's also like writing the book as well. I think that basically what she wrote for the New Yorker was kind of split up, and there was a lot of controversy because a lot of people accused her of, because of how she reported on that trial, accused her of blaming the victims, the Jewish victims of, the Holocaust, and basically defending a Nazi or someone who was helping the Nazis, depending on how you want to look at it. And her idea was that she was just so struck by the averageness, the mediocrity, the bureaucracy of this Jewish leader who had helped. I think he was a Jewish leader, so she said that only good, this is in the film, so I don't know if this is a direct quote from her, but only good can be profound and radical. Evil is just extreme, but it's also banal. So she said that it was kind of a warning or a cautionary tale, basically saying that there's something between resistance and compliance, or endorsement, or celebration, or perpetuating some kind of evil. It's that middle part where you give up your own ability to critically think and assess a situation. And so therefore you lose also what makes us human. Heidegger was really big on the concept of thinking and making it a bit more complicated and nuanced. And it seems like she was preoccupied with that as well, and found that to be like the missing piece in human beings, when we go along with what is harmful and we go along with perpetuating suffering instead of stopping it or being a part of a revolution or speaking out with it. So even though she got a lot of criticism and people were saying you're trying to turn this into a philosophy lesson, she was really making a good point about what we need to watch out for in potential authoritarian or totalitarian situations. One of my students actually presented the last time I taught intro to philosophy, one of my students presented on this, and Arendt and her idea of the banality of evil. And I'm so proud of her. She did an amazing job. Okay, so, and that movie was difficult for me to find. So I'm in the States, and apparently Amazon said that it wasn't available for me. So I don't know what countries it's available in. I had to go to actually a Jewish film website, which was really cool. I don't know if I have the money to subscribe to it and check out more of their videos, but I was on it for about a week so I could watch that movie. And that was the only place I could find it. I think it's on Apple Plus TV, but I couldn't get that to work. So I don't know. Okay, so I'm actually hoping to read this it's a pretty slim volume. I'm hoping to read this soon, but I haven't done really anything all day. This is the first productive thing I've done. So I think we left off with Hannah Arendt's Shadows. And I guess I could just look for my highlights, because I went back to reread it, because it's hard when I'm reading doing cold reading, like reading out loud, and I don't get a lot of time to just pause and think. So I think this is Heidegger. Why is my light is so low? I guess it doesn't matter. This is Heidegger responding to Arendt and her little creative nonfiction, basically, that she gave him. All right, so this is April 1925. My dearest, when I gave you the manuscript today, your elementary joy overwhelmed me and made me helpless. I gave you a piece of my soul, little enough for your love, but your joyful gratitude towered over everything. Was it chance that you brought along the manuscript when I intended to ask you for it, in order to give it back to you as a gift as a symbol of how you will live in my work from now on? With the inexhaustible impulse of the shy, retiring affection that has helped you discover your essence with such extraordinary clarity. Since I read your diary, I can no longer say you don't understand that. You sense it, and follow along. There are shadows only where there is sun, and that is the foundation of your soul. You come straight from the center of your existence to be close to me, and you have become a force that will influence my life forever. Fragmentation and despair will never yield anything like your supportive love in my work. So something I didn't think about last time, I don't know why it escaped me, but just her title, Shadows, thinking about I don't even know what to call it, meditative circles, perhaps. I don't know really who owns the idea. Maybe, I don't know. We'll just say meditative circles. Let me know in the comments what other communities incorporate it. But shadow work. So shadow work is, definitely not an expert on this. I've just dabbled in it maybe once. But I did like a shadow work meditation once, and basically, I guess how I understand it is that there are certain parts of us that we repress or that need love, and to kind of come out into the light and the openness for us to encounter them and to self-reflect, so that we can break traumatic ancestral cycles that get a little, I don't know what you're gonna call it, new age. I feel like that's such an archaic term. I don't know what's better. So that we can start to heal that, that is within us. And so the meditation, I'm sure there's lots of ways of doing this, and like journal prompts and different meditations, but this meditation asked you to, or me, person listening and meditating, to think of a time where you consented to something in a way, but only partially, something that you really didn't want to do. And to kind of relive that experience, and then, to embrace it, to show love to yourself, and to think about maybe how you might have done that situation, like been in that situation, how you might have acted differently. And then I think there's like 3 things that she asked me to do. This is just like on the phone, like a recorded thing that anyone can listen to. The second thing was, I think, relive a time where you hurt somebody and you didn't know that you did, that wasn't intentional, I guess. And to relive how that felt to experience someone else telling you that they hurt you. And then I think maybe the third one was when you intentionally either hurt someone or wanted to hurt someone. Obviously, it doesn't have to be physically, I mean, like emotionally, or you were revengeful or mad or something. So some of those were easier than others for me to just kind of like remember examples, but it affected me quite deeply. I mean, I don't know, this could just be, I don't know if this is everybody, but I'm sure many people like are weeping and crying, and it's a very, like, I think when you're doing shadow work, you can get into some kind of panic, and you really need to know when you should get out of it and ground yourself so it doesn't like traumatize you for the rest of the day, and you don't I don't think you can do it all in like one 15-minute meditation or however it is. But I think it's interesting. So when Heidegger says there's no shadow without sun, that's a big part of shadow work. It's bringing what you have allowed to be in the shadow, or you didn't know was in the shadow, almost as if they were wounded children, and you're asking them to come out, and you're telling them that you're beautiful, and I love you, and I see you beneath the dirt and the grime, or however you imagine your shadow children, I guess, that are inside of you. And whatever it is, I guess it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to like see a little child, or like yourself as a little child. It could be like symbolic, I guess, but whatever it is, even if it's like just an abstract shadow, you're shining a light on it, to reveal it, to try to understand it, to try to encounter it, and then try to love it. And as I say, love transforms everything, right? So, okay. Your letter to Castle left me moved for days. It really seems like Heidegger feels that Hannah Arendt is like his muse and his source of eros, almost. If you want to have me, if you like, what can I still do in the face of such shy and yet so resolute waiting, such persistence? What have I brought you but the most difficult burden, and has it not been a continual sacrifice of your soul? And your shy quiet yes in the train station. And as you forced me away from you, only then were you really close to me, and your essence revealed to me at that moment you spoke, wordlessly, completely freely to me. Since that wondrous reparting, which put me in your debt, I have been calm and happy about your life and its certainty and power. Shadows were cast by your surroundings, by the age, by the forced maturity of a young life. Both Arendt and Heidegger keep referring to this. Like, how was she at that age, like forced into maturity? I don't understand that. Just reading about how, like, what he emphasizes when he describes what he is attracted to in her, and he always mentions like this shyness, or this waiting, this pushing back. And I don't know if this is in all relationships that have an age gap. And I think it's probably different for the younger person than it is for the older person. But I wonder if a part of that kind of eros is, and I'm thinking about, it has to be just a part, because there's a book by Annie Ernaux. She is the Nobel Prize winner from last year in literature. She has a book coming out called, in English, The Younger Man. Yeah, I'm gonna try to think what that would be in French. Would it just be like le jeune, I don't know, masculine and feminine. So, and I think she was like almost 50, and there was this student that was like college student that was like writing her, and she finally like they ended up having a relationship. And she talks about, in the little excerpt that I read on Vogue, she talks about how, being with a younger person helped her relive and think back on the younger times in her life when she was, carefree and like sleeping on a mattress on the floor and having to use a hot plate. And it's just, it just like charged her with emotion and feeling and sensuality. Okay, so I think it has a connection with what I was going to say, because what I was going to say is I wonder if in Eros there's the element of the forbidden, of something you shouldn't do, and you're holding back from it. So with Annie Ernaux's case, I think it was maybe a feeling of the unconventional, like this unconventional relationship opened a portal to something equally unconventional. And I guess it's just, I don't know. I mean, at the same time, though, Arendt, and I guess I'm just preoccupied with like the ethics and the morality of this, because, and I don't think that we should place victimhood on someone who hasn't like claimed it for themselves, and I think Arendt and Heidegger, their relationship spanned such a long time. So she was only very young, 19, 20, etc. She was only in her 20s for so long. And then they continued to have that relationship. And, she was able to grow up and she still like wanted to be in that relationship. I just think that even though, and maybe for a younger person, they are attracted to the wisdom and the confidence of an older person, maybe just whatever you naturally gather as you age. So there's a text. So there's that, but what I wanted to say is I just wonder if sometimes age gaps are sometimes a source of regret for the younger person as they grow up, because I think that there can be maybe potentially unhealthy dynamics with power, and especially with Arendt and Heidegger, since he was her professor, and I'm sure things were very different in the 20s or 30s and 40s, etc. But I'm saying the 20s, but I can't remember when she was born. A long time ago. And now I think, helpfully, there's a lot more awareness about how when we're growing up and when we're young, we can all think back, unless you are young, you can think about your life now. But if you're older, like me, you can think back of when, I think back when I was young and in my 20s, how impressionable I was and how just innocent and naive. And I think it takes a while to gather that critical awareness where you can, for some of us, you can speak up for yourself and you really understand the dynamics of what's going on. And so I don't know, this is not really what I have to talk about. Like, it's not like my responsibility, I think, to critique this. But it's just hard to read. And everyone's different, right? I just don't think I would have done well in this situation. So just being personal. I wonder if I should answer this text really quickly. Am I busy? Monday. Okay. All right. I would not love you if I were not convinced that those shadows are not you, but distortions and illusions produced by an endless self-erosion that penetrated from outside. You're startling and okay, so I'm sorry, one more thing, maybe right now. That's another danger, I think, of being with an older person if you are, let's say, in your 20s. Because the older person might be assumed to have more wisdom, and any sort of interpretation they are making on the younger person's life, like Heidegger's doing right here, he's saying your shadows are not you, your shadows are distortions and illusions produced by an endless self-erosion. I mean, that's pretty intense and heavy. There are other ways to think of it. Maybe she doesn't want to think of her shadows that way. And now she's like overwhelmed. It's kind of like a parent who doesn't have good boundaries and oversteps their boundaries and tries to control how a teen or young adult child, or I don't know, whatever age they are, tries to control how they think about themselves and how they think about the world, instead of allowing them to experience life at an age appropriate like state, right? So there's some things that you can't understand depending on your age, because you haven't experienced it and you don't have the cognitive ability to. And so, and some parents, and that, can be really harmful. Your startling admission will not undermine my belief in the genuine, rich impulses of your existence. On the contrary, for me, it is proof that you have moved into the open. Although the way out of such existential contortions, which are really not yours, will be long. The background, surroundings, and possibilities of my life were simpler. In terms of keeping instincts under control, attaining objectivity, and managing work easily, than that of many young people today. And, he's also a dude, so. As a result, it has been easy for me to do you wrong, even though, and this is also interesting, like he keeps saying like, I'm the burden, or it's been easy to do you wrong, or, I think I wonder if just from those expressions, if there's a little bit of like guilt and shame for being in this relationship, but I also think that guilt and shame can be eroticized. Maybe they shouldn't be, but like that's not super helpful or healthy, but I don't know. I think maybe why am I like seeing this through a psychological lens? It's the only way I know how. It has been easy for me to do you wrong, even you, by understanding you. But the closeness of your being, and now your photographs, are so incontestable to me that quite apart from knowing love, I will never believe you could or would live your life in idle experiments. You were so happy today when you arrived, sparkling and free, just as I hoped you would be on your return to Marburg. I was dazed by the splendor of this human essence, whom I am allowed to be close to. And when you asked, as I apparently seemed absent, if you should go, then I was with you, entirely alone, free of worldly cares and doubt, in the clear joy that you exist. I will be lecturing in room 11 again. Do you know what that means? I mean, I don't. Good night, dearest Hannah. I don't know what that means. Okay. Note. As a note. We're on number 12. What is a number 12? 11? No, doesn't make sense. 4. Probably lecture hall 11 in the old university building in Marburg. MH had lectured on Plato's Sophist there in the winter semester of 24-25, 4 hours a week, which was where he first saw Hannah Arendt. Oh, interesting. On Plato. He said, okay, this says, see MH in his letter in 1950, page 78 of this, when your loving picture, a photograph Arendt sent to Heidegger in 1950, looks straight into my heart. You do not realize that it is the same gaze that leapt toward me on the lectern. Oh, it was and is and will remain will remain eternity from afar into intimacy. Dearest, would love still be the great faith that rises in the soul if waiting and guarding were not part of the experience of love? Being allowed to wait for the beloved, that is what is most wonderful, for it is in that waiting that the beloved is present. It just reminds me so much like of Han. Talking about that within Eros, that Eros requires, I'm trying to say like all the time, distance. Let me into the innermost and purest part of your soul with this faith. What you revealed to me in your diary and in our silently suffering encounter is that an unbroken certainty and security resides in your life. And I have been responsible for this shy freedom and your soul's unthreatened hope. And not in the rose's bloom or by the clear stream, not in the heat of the sun on the fields, not in the raging of the storm or the silence of the mountains, all of which happened to little Peterl. That's a fun German name. No, I have forced your shivering soul into something ugly, dreary, foreign, artificial. And as the silence and fresh evening air recently enclosed us, the river shining up to us between the dark tree trunks and the horses' clear hoofbeats going down the lonely street, you were so purely happy in it all. Then I was struck again by how I have made you suffer. That needs a footnote. I put your note in your diary pages. It is the original and definite yes to the first of the 2 questions with which those pages end. How you have found yourself again because you never could and never can lose yourself. And this yes is so gratifying because it expresses humility toward your own God-given essence. And can you think of anything greater than this, being allowed to wait for such an essence for all eternity? I think there's a line between being encouraging and, again, pushing your interpretation, even if it's a positive interpretation, onto somebody. Any kind of, oh, but you're like this, and you're like X, Y, and Z, and trying to deny. I mean, on the one hand, it is encouraging, and I think a healthy or good relationship, at least in my experience, of when like maybe someone is putting themselves down and they're judgmental and they're critical and they're trying to work on their self-worth, and the other person genuinely, sees great things in them and, wants them to be more gentle on themselves. And so, so expresses that, that I think can be a healthy dynamic. But there's another kind of way that that can happen that's not healthy. And I don't know if I'm ready to articulate it yet. It's more of like a feeling that I've had with like other people that, yeah. So I don't know. Help me articulate that. The difference. Dearest, would love still be, oh, did I have to read this? I have no idea. Dearest, would love still be the great faith that rises in the soul if waiting and guarding were not part of the experience of love? I did read this. Being allowed to wait. Oh, did I read this whole thing? Why am I distracting myself? Oh yeah, I have. Okay, how he's made her suffer. Dear Hannah, you must have a loving greeting on Sunday. After the concert, I was so moved by being near you that I could not bear it any longer and left, when I would much rather have wandered through the May night with you, walking silently beside you and sensing your dear hand and your great gaze, not asking what for and why, but just being. How your essence instructs me in this, and how I sense the strength in it, from which your life is drawing, even when you, yes, you, a boisterous imp, conquer dances and cinema and society. You said that you were overcome by fear on our first walk, fear of what would become of it all. But could something still become by then? Everything already was, wasn't it? And won't it always be so? Did we do anything to bring it about? And what can we do but only open ourselves and allow what is to be? Let it be so that it is pure joy to us and the wellspring of every new living day. Elated about being who we are, and still one would like to say something and to offer oneself to the other, but we could only say that the world is now no longer mine and yours, but ours. Only that what we do and achieve belongs not to you and me, but to us. Only that gable and paths and May morning and scent of flowers are ours. And only that all kindness to others and every unforced, authentic act is our life. Only that the joyful struggle and the definitive commitment to something chosen are ours. Ours. That can never be lost, but can only become richer, clearer, more certain, so as to develop into a great passion for existence. Now you have found your seat. You will not get much from taking notes. Listen instead and try to follow along. I will be printing these lectures in the fall after all, and you will have a copy of the essay. Do you want to bring me the George poems you mentioned so recently? So much pure Sunday joy and a loving kiss. I mean, that's the thing about Heidegger. He's super poetic. All right, so let's look at these notes. What are the poems? What are the lectures? Oh, there's pictures in the back. Okay. In the summer semester of 1955, these notes are really interesting, actually. Heidegger lectured as he wrote to Jaspers 4 hours a week from 7 to 8 in the morning on the history of the concept of time. The lecture was published only posthumously. I was like, how do you say that? In retrospect, Heidegger's statement printing these lectures in the fall must refer to being in time, whose first galleys were printed in early 26. On the complicated history of Heidegger's 27 magnum opus, okay, see this other book. Okay, oh, a collection of poems by Stefan George. See the following letter. Okay. Oh, my day was so great and so quickly taken from me. This time all words fail me and I can only cry and cry. And the why cannot be answered either. It sinks, waiting in vain, in thanks and faith. Now I will do what the angel bids. Since the day it all broke over me, you, the magic of Wetzlar still palpable around you, the flower dreams still in your hair, the sweep and line of the mountains on your brow, and the trembling of evening cool in your beloved hand. And your great hour when you become a saint, when you stand completely revealed, when the lines of your face tense, urged by the inner strength of an atonement that sustains your life. Child, how can you do that? And in doing so, become reverent and great. Life opens itself to reverence and receives greatness through it. In your unearthly face, in your great moments between happiness and evening farewell, I gratefully experience what great forgiveness was called into your soul, and how you faithfully protect it. Everything your diary relates is there, but overcome, not forgotten and rejected, but brought into the authenticity of innermost life. And in the end, you are too shy. That is, genuine shyness is always too shy to make the yes of God, who recognized and accepted you, something belonging to your soul. This is making me want to read theological works. Here's my Meister Eckhart. But saint, may you preserve this shyness. That's nice. Calling her saint. May his yes preserve you. And a philosopher with Augustine, he sees only the child trying to spoon the sea into a little pit on the beach, and he is made helpless to face life by such seeking. So you became the present to me when in it you became the ultimate gift to me. Nothing forced its way into our closeness, nothing merely earthly, blind, wild, and lawless. And I have only you to thank for that it was you. Now I carry that in my soul and ask God to give me pure hands to cherish this jewel. And so a great day hovers over my pages and notebooks this morning, and I am reading Augustine's De Gratia et Libero Arbitrio. Thank you for your letters. Obviously, I need to take a Latin class, and probably a Greek one. For how you have accepted me into your love, beloved. Do you know that this is the most difficult thing a human is given to endure? For anything else, there are methods, aids, limits, and understanding. Here alone, everything means. To be in one's love is to be forced into one's innermost existence. Amo means volo ut sis. Augustine once said, I love you. I want you to be what you are. Now that's a good thing to say to somebody. I want you to be who you are. Oh, that's nice. I don't even know if I have a copy of Augustine's Confessions anymore. There are so many books that I have had and just abandoned. It is hard to love, especially there are all of those categories of attachment styles, and depending on, which one we are, we have some maybe challenges to doing that. I mean, it's pros and cons of the solitary life, I guess. Dear heart, that you said nothing after I told you what I had done. We are both people who find it hard to talk, but also understand a silence. Helps me understand their relationship, I guess. Thank you for the fragrant flowers, which keep a May day of your young life in my memory. And thank you for your poems. And thank you, even if I cannot and may not do so, for your love. Would you like to pick me up next Friday afternoon? Why is it Saturday? At 4 o'clock for a little walk through the meadows. Please bring the sheller. I got to see the note. I got to see the note. 1:15. Oh, there's another note about the Day Song by Stephen George. The carpet of life and the songs of dream and death with a prologue. Okay. Presumably a work by Max Scheler. On Scheller's note in Heidegger's philosophical development, see some source. And then also in Memoriam, Max Scheler, part of the Marburg lecture in summer semester 1928, The Metaphysical Foundations of Logic. Right. Tell me that. Dearest Hannah, I feel as if we hadn't seen each other in years, and soon you will travel to my beloved mountains in this glorious May. I am not going after all, as I need the vacation for my logic, and at the moment I am not up to working because of the mysterious cold. And our concert tomorrow, which we did not even mention, has been ruined for me by a meeting. But still, it's just funny how he's kind of like grumpy about being sick and having me go to a meeting. But I still rejoice that you are happy and working and growing into things. And in my rare breaks, I read your poems. But my longing for you is becoming less and less controllable. You are Martin. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna be super happy when she grows up. All right, we have the 50s and 60s. So I have to be able for unanticipated meetings in the evening. Hence, it will be hard for us to see each other this week. In any case, definitely Tuesday, the 26th. You'll still be here, won't you? But only after 9 o'clock. I will also bring you the letter for Herschel then. Destroy this note. Okay, I need to see the note. I need a bookmark. With a handwritten note by Hannah Arendt, top hat of note destroyed, dated on the basis of the reference to Tuesday the 26th. In 1925, there was only one Tuesday on the 26th of a month, namely in May. The Pentecost holiday was on May 31st and June 1st. During the Pentecost holiday, Arendt was first in Freiburg, then in Interlaken. It is highly likely that Heidegger stayed in Marburg. The letter, probably a recommendation, is not in the papers of Herschel, Heidegger, or Arendt. Okay. All right, well, I think I'm gonna stop there because I think I need to read some Han, perhaps. I am currently reading The Transparency Society, although, is that what it's called? Something about transparency. Although I've only read a few pages because I've just been unmotivated, honestly, by the weather, and I'm still trying to put my apartment together. So anyway, all right, thank you so much for listening along with me. And if you have any thoughts, as always, let me know. See you next time.